Boy, that music is timeless, kind of like the music of your life. And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm John Harper, and let's get things going as I introduce the host of our program for today and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, none other than Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. It's always fun to be bouncing along with that good
Yeah,
music here.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
Yeah.
it's good.
It really is music of your life.
It's classic. It's absolutely classic. So welcome. It's our lunchtime hour right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. We gather every Wednesday here on this great radio station that you can hear all throughout Brevard County, blasts up and down the Space Coast, reaches over into the eastern parts of Orlando, and even a little bit past all of that. So we're so glad to have you if you're listening on the air, if you're listening online at WEJF.net, or if you're catching this as a growing number of people do via podcast, because we always take everything we do at Helping Seniors and make sure it's available in the online world. So you can find us on our Facebook page, Helping Seniors of Brevard. You can find us on our YouTube channel, Helping Seniors of Brevard. You can find us on our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. And, of course, every Wednesday right here on the radio. So on behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, he's retired Navy captain, and he's the guy that they named the Joe's Clubs after, because he spent all that time with Brevard Alzheimer's, getting all those things established throughout our county, and then literally we're now into our 13th year of the Helping Seniors organization. And I remember when I first met Joe, right as he was getting everything launched, and he said, Kerry, he said, what I've learned along the way is we need good resources for people who have memory challenges, but he said, I have really discovered that we need resources that will help connect seniors and their families to information that will help them. And he calls it an aging plan. And we euphemistically call it getting your ducks in a row. But his point about the aging plan, and that's really what we're going to get into today, is that everybody needs one. We understand, because we live here in Florida, we do not want a hurricane, but we do understand it makes sense for us to come up with a hurricane plan, which just helps us be prepared if something is headed our way. And that's kind of the challenge with with what happens with aging. So we have now, into our 13th year, operated the Helping Seniors info line. Let me give you half a second to grab a pencil so you can jot this number down. It's an important number. You will want to keep this close by, but it's area code 321-473-7770. I'll say that number again so you got plenty of time to jot this down. It's 321-473-7770. That number is important because it is your connection to the Helping Seniors organization. If you call it, you're going to hear either Nancy, or for that matter, Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, 33 years of registered nurse experience, but also you may hear Karen Wernland, who is kind enough to come in and help us, because the call volume is actually getting so extreme from the number of seniors who are calling in and looking for help. But that's what we try to do. We try to connect seniors and their families to information resources that will help them. However, most of the time when people are calling us, there's usually a challenge in front of them, and we're trying to react to something. Whereas if you get to know our great friend, he's been a friend of Helping Seniors, actually goes back with Joe, even back to Brevard Alzheimer's days, but he's always been kind of steadfast in really trying to make sure that we're able to get good information in the hands of seniors and families. He's board certified elder law attorney. He is so, I would say, important. I don't think he would use the word important, but he's one of the guys that the entire Florida elder law section looks to for help, guidance, input, advice when bills are being put in front of the legislature here in Florida. In fact, if you've been around us any period of time, you also know, especially while the legislature is in session, he'll bring us really good updates as to what's on tap, whether it's good for seniors, maybe it's questionable for seniors, but we're always stayed up to date. I'm talking about our good friend, Bill Johnson, elder law attorney with the firm of William A. Johnson. How are you today, Bill?
I'm doing great, Kerry.
So you've been around Joe actually longer than I have. And ever since I've known him, all he talks about is the importance of getting together an aging plan. And it's a little different, Bill, I think, than just a retirement plan, because if we use that word retirement, we tend to think in financial terms, but there's so much more to it, right?
Correct. Today, I guess we're going to concentrate on what you should be looking for if you're retiring, but this is probably true for everything else. And we're probably going to talk a lot more about maybe not like document planning,
right,
which we've probably talked ad nauseum about here, but talking about other considerations to think about when you're retiring.
I think that's so important. And let me just add a little plus to what Bill was talking about, document planning. Guys, this is so important, because we've done so many shows. Again, I just mentioned everything we do is available in kind of, we call it the Helping Seniors universe of, because if it's a TV show that we do, we broadcast 4 times a day. Space Coast Government TV. We do the radio show. We publish in Senior Scene magazine. All of those materials we make sure that we have available on our website, Facebook, and YouTube, because people will access this stuff sometimes after the fact. And Bill, what you were talking about, the documents is so important because, number one, people are reaching retirement age every single day in huge numbers. It's just where the aging is. But then so many people are moving to Florida and may think they have everything buttoned up, but things could be construed differently under Florida law, and they have to be familiar with that. So all those resources are important. But today, you brought in a thick sheaf of papers, and I immediately walked in and I saw the first one was talking about when to start retirement, when to start taking your Social Security benefits. And as I understand, the little bit I understand about that, this is pretty important how you think of this in terms of your overall aging plan, right?
It is. It is. You have to take in it. And when we talked about aging plan, we talked about the different things or potential pitfalls, and retirement planning is the same way.
Yeah. So where do we, because I know the age that you could start taking Social Security is 62, but I've heard a lot of people say that may not be the right time for you to do this. For example, if you're still working, or there's a lot of other considerations that go into all this.
That's a great lead-in, because I don't think people realize that retirement may be longer than you think.
Right.
1 out of 3 65-year-olds will make it to age 90.
Wow.
1 out of 7 65-year-olds will make it to age 95.
Wow.
So that can be an additional 30 years.
Yeah.
So some of these decisions become very important. So let's start with, the one everybody wants to know about, the money.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Social Security. For people like me, my full retirement age is 67. For people who were born before 1960, their retirement age is 65.
Right.
And what does that mean? Well, when you reach your full retirement age, you can draw from Social Security and you get your full benefit. However, and that would be 67 for myself. Mm-hmm. However, you can start as early as 62. Mm-hmm. However, if you start there, you get a reduced benefit.
Yeah.
Roughly about 30% less.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
And it's permanent. You cannot, once you make the selection, you can't go back on it. If you go and delay taking your benefit to age 70, you will get more money.
Yeah.
And about 77% or so.
Wow.
So depending on when you start your Social Security will depend on what you get as part of your retirement package. Now, don't confuse this with Medicare. Medicare starts at age 65.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously, if you're eligible for Social Security, you want to go ahead and do that. Once you reach your full retirement age, you can work and still get Social Security, and there's no downside to it.
Yeah, because isn't that a fact that, like, if you take it early, but you're still earning, then not only, I think it has something to do with your earnings from Social Security being taxable, but they also kind of penalize you somehow, right?
Well, and I'm going to read this right off their sheet. When you reach your full retirement age, you can work and earn as much as you want and still get your full Social Security benefit.
Okay.
If you're younger than your full retirement age, and if your earnings exceed certain dollar amounts, some of your benefit payments within the 1 year period will be withheld.
Wow. So you would hurt yourself two ways, right? Because you wouldn't be getting as much as you could if you waited, and then you may not even get it, depending on what you're actually earning in the workplace, right?
Correct.
So once again, planning makes all the difference.
So yes, and that's very important to know. Now, when you turn 65, that's when you become eligible for Medicare, and you need to sign up for that. Basically, the people who get Medicare are either age 65 or older or disabled. If you have SSDI, Social Security disability, you can get Medicare, or end-stage renal disease is another one. Medicare Part A, which is your hospitalization coverage, is if you've paid into the system, that means you've worked 10 years, 40 quarters, then Medicare Part A hospital coverage is free.
Oh,
Okay, because you've paid into the system.
okay.
Medicare Part B, however, is not free.
That's the one
And
you pay
you have
for.
to sign up for that, and that is your medical insurance. And that is usually what they deduct from your Social Security check. Each time it comes up, they deduct the premium amount. It's somewhere around $150 now for most folks. But it all depends on your age, and it does vary by people. So you could be eligible for that. If you did not work, you can pay into the system and pay for A and B. So if you, let's say you were a new citizen or something,
Right.
yeah, you didn't have the amount of quarters in, then of course you could pay and join up. Now, if you enroll during the first 6 months after turning age 65, that sets your premium, what you're paying for the premium,
Okay.
and you'll continue paying that premium, though it does get adjusted for cost of living. Now, both A and B have gaps. They have copays.
Right.
So a lot of people get into what they call a Medigap insurance, and there are policies for Medigap. They're usually standardized A through N, though a couple of the ones in between haven't. And they pay for a variety of different things. Most of them pay for your Part A coinsurance and hospital costs up to an additional 365 days. A lot of them pay for your Part B coinsurance, so pay for first 3 pints of blood, your hospice care copays, your skilled nursing facility copays, the Part A deductible, Part B deductible. Some of them pay for Part B excess charges. Some of them have some coverage for foreign travel.
Okay.
Pay 80%. Some of them have a out-of-pocket limit, so you could have a high deductible Medigap plan. So the C and F are no longer for sale to new Medicare members, but the rest of A through N is. Medigap Plan A is just basic benefits. Medigap Plans B and M are basics plus some extras. Medigap D and G are the highest coverage. Medigap N has lower premiums but higher copays. That's the high deductible. And K and L have the lowest premiums and only partial coverage, though.
Wow. So there's a lot of considerations in all this. And I guess the one thing that I have heard, and I don't know if it's covered in some of the stuff we're talking about, but I've understood that it's pretty important that you do sign up for Medicare coverage at age 65, even if you're still working, because isn't there something that kicks in?
That's where I was going to go with this next, Kerry. So when you're offered Medicare, you have that 6-month window to sign up. If you don't sign up in that period, you can sign up. However, they are allowed to increase the premium that you are charged by 10% for every year that you delay.
Wow.
So if you say you were 65, you're going to work to 75, you're covered by your employer, and then you're going to retire. So now your employer coverage is no longer available to you. All of a sudden, you're signing up for Medicare, and you're finding you're paying double what everybody else is.
Wow. And that's like for the rest of your life.
Correct.
Wow.
So even if you're working and you turn 65, you should sign up. Excuse me. And that way, at least you've locked in the premium.
Right. And I think, so Nancy Deerdorf, our operations specialist, always has this term, how do you know what you don't know? Which is why you listening to today's radio show and hearing what Bill is explaining is so important. We're talking with Bill Johnson, board certified elder law attorney with the law firm of William A. Johnson. And what you're talking about, Bill, and why it's so important is because I don't know. I think I saw something on news recently where they're talking about the number of boomers who just say, look, I'm planning on working a whole lot more. I'm just, that's what I'm going to do so I can have the best retirement possible. That's how I think for myself. I love what we do with helping seniors. But the point is, you still got to be aware that when you hit that 65, you better go ahead and sign up for the Medicare, even if
Correct.
you say, I'm not going to grab the Social Security yet.
Correct. And the other kicker is that during that 6-month window where you sign up for Medicare, you can sign up for any of the Medigap plans that you want, and they can't deny you. However, if you do not sign up in that 6-month window and sign up later, Medigap can exclude you for pre-existing conditions.
So you get sick, now you may have trouble working all this out the way you hoped.
Correct. So you could have really bad results if you don't know the interplay of all these. Now, a lot of people opt for what they call these choice or advantage plans.
Right.
And these are to replace Part B, and you don't pay the same premium you would pay for regular Part B. You pay a reduced rate usually, though I've seen some that charge almost as much as what regular Part B is. And generally, they try to get you to sign up for these things, one, because it saves you money.
Yeah.
And then they add in some extras. Some of them have ocular, dental. Some of them have gym memberships, things that, are perks that regular Medicare Part B would not pay for. What you are giving up, however, is your right to go anywhere that takes Medicare.
Right.
Because now you are locked in a PPO, preferred provider situation, where you have to go to their doctors, their hospitals, a lot of them won't pay for you to go to rehab hospitals. Some of them won't pay for you to, have extended stays at rehab at a nursing home. So you do give up quite a bit by just getting that reduced income. Now, as we've talked about on the show time and time again, is, if you're a senior and you're living on Social Security right now, every nickel counts.
Right.
So that's why some of these plans are very attractive to people, because they get more in their Social Security check. And also, a lot of these plans have a Medicare Part D rolled in, which is a prescription drug plan. And you don't have to sign up for that separately.
Yeah.
So there are some advantages to the Advantage and Choice plans. There are some negatives. If you don't like HMOs and you don't want to be locked in and want to be able to go see whoever you want to be, then Part B and a Medigap policy is probably the way to go.
You know, it's so complicated, Bill, because as you're talking about, you know, if you're a snowbird, stuff like that becomes a consideration because, you know, typically the plans will help you in an emergency. But if you regularly, you know, I'm 6 months in Wisconsin and I spend my winters in Florida, then you have to make sure that whatever you chose is going to let you take care of your medical stuff wherever you are. And to that point also, Bill, I was thinking, you know, we always talk why it's so important that somebody gives, you know, you or somebody that's a real expert board, you know, you're a board certified elder law attorney, but we've talked even about the horror shows that can come up if you go to maybe you have a great friend in the family who's a regular attorney and you say, help me get some paperwork together. And then they do it because they know you and helped you with a real estate transaction. But then at the time that it really needs to come into play, it doesn't work because the person wasn't aware of all these nuances, which is why we always say, don't try this on your own. And the same thing I think applies to these Medicare questions. Like I know in the Helping Seniors Network, there are 3 excellent, I would have no problem recommending any one of them to anyone because these are folks who are independent licensed insurance agents who have made their specialty Medicare, and so they can sit down with you. They can look at your drugs, your drug, the prescriptions. They can look at your how you go to the doctor, what your medical history has been, what your income is, what the things are you need, and then they can shop every plan that's out there to make sure that what you are getting is what's going to be most beneficial, as opposed to you just, you know, looking at all these flyers that come in your mailbox and going, oh, that one looks fine.
Not just that, ads on TV and everything. They bombard these people with all that.
Yeah, we're talking with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson. We're about to go to mid-show break, but real quick, as we're talking about all this, if somebody wants to get in touch with your office and maybe ask a question or find out, because you do a lot of seminars and things as well. I know the website is floridaelderlaw.net, but let's talk about a phone number as well.
321-253-1667.
Yeah, and I know you do a lot of excellent free, I want to emphasize that, free seminars over like One Senior Place, and you're going to be bringing those, I hope, over to the Senior Resource Center so we can hit people in Melbourne as well. But, you know, knowing this stuff is so important. So we're going to continue on the other side of the show, the mid-show break. We're going to continue our conversation about things that would be helpful to you in your retirement and aging plan. See you in a few.
12:33 in the afternoon right now here on 90.3 FM. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm John Harper. We're glad to have you here along with us. But right now, let's introduce or reintroduce the host of the program and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here again, Kerry Fink.
Hey, thank you, John Harper. Really good to be back for the second half of this show. Already well underway, and what a great conversation we are having. This is all about helping you get your aging/retirement plan together, and our guest is board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson of the law firm William A. Johnson. Bill goes all the way back with us since Joe started Helping Seniors, and actually before that, when Joe was building Joe's Clubs and all for Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. So welcome back, 90.3 FM, WEJF. Welcome back online at WEJF.net, and welcome back if you're still listening on the podcast. We appreciate you being here, and I think you're going to get a lot out of the show because, Bill, during the first half, we were talking about just some things that the average person may not know about when to take Social Security benefits, you know, because there's a lot of nuances to all that. Then we talked a little bit about Medicare insurance and some key dates that you want to be sure that you're paying attention to. And then we even went through some of the, you know, the kind of the Medigap plans that are there. You know, this, I call it the alphabet soup of Medicare, but it's kind of like that. So if you missed any of that, the beautiful thing is everything is there for you at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. It's there at Helping Seniors YouTube page, and it's there at Helping Seniors on Facebook. So you can access this or podcast wise on anything from Apple iTunes to Spotify or any place like that. So just make sure you get this information because we're talking about things, Bill. So often when I talk to you, I talk about the things that you help people resolve in their aging plans, or getting your ducks in a row, as we often euphemistically call it. And we always tell people, don't try this on your own, because the kind of mistakes that people might make by running down to an office supply store and pulling a form, or worse yet, thinking they're experts and starting to download stuff that they found on the internet, and then they run into your office when everything is breaking loose and find out what they thought they had is not going to be of any help at all. And so now maybe they saved $100 or something up front, but now it's going to cost them $20,000 or $30,000 to try to just get it the way they had hoped it would be. Maybe.
Correct. And before we move on, we talked about Medicare and we talked about AB, the Advantage plans, Medicare Part D. The other health thing you got to pay attention to is long-term care.
Yeah.
And none of those things we talked about, Medicare A, B, C, or D, cover long-term care.
Yeah.
And ideally, you would have inquired, if you were going to insure, around age 55 is usually the ideal age to get into that. There are still quite a few companies out there doing it. Most of them have gone to a hybrid kind of deal where you buy life insurance, and during your lifetime, if you become ill, you can access the death benefit to pay for your long-term care.
Oh, wow.
So if I had a $500,000 death benefit and I became ill, and I needed to use $200,000 of that to pay for my assisted living, then when I die, $300,000 would go to my heirs instead of the $500,000. And I think most of them have gone to that model because it's a lot easier, because it's a set amount. So the company's going to have to come up with this amount of cash, and they can do the actuarial calculations a lot easier than trying to gauge what the price of a day at a nursing home is going to cost in 10 years. So a lot of them do that, but obviously for long-term care insurance, you have to be healthy too.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this. I remember some shows we've done in the past where you talk about, like, they'll do a survey of people who are either at retirement age or getting close to retirement age, and they ask them, what their major considerations are of the things that they want to plan for. And they'll come up, of course, with things like travel, looking out for the kids, all these other things. And almost no one talks about how important the long-term care is in the planning.
Well, you've heard me beat the gavel several times.
Yes.
But I posted a couple articles, and one is this: I found staggering that in 2007, the average, or median, I should say, median retirement account balance for high income earners was about $330,000.
Wow.
Versus for middle income houses, they had about 86,800 saved.
So we're woefully unprepared.
Well, that was 2007.
Wow.
Jump forward to 2019, and the disparity has grown.
Wow.
High-income households have about $605,000 in their retirement accounts, compared with $64,300.
That's actually gone down.
For inflation's been a big part of it. So the disparity, the gap between the haves and have-nots has gone up greatly. That's why all these things become very important. The other thing is that, I think I've told you this, but CNBC just came out with this again. Basically, 61% of Americans say they are living paycheck to paycheck. So that means they have no savings.
Yeah.
I think it's something like 50% of Americans have no savings.
Wow.
At all.
Wow. See, and I think so many times, because I can tell you, Nancy gets the calls, and people somehow think Medicare will cover like some long-term facility. Oh, my mom needs to go to assisted living. Medicare will pay for that. And the answer is like, well, no.
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 Or some people think just if you turn 80 that Medicare pays for your housing, just regular housing.
No.
And no.
No.
You have to meet, qualifications. There's huge waiting lists for subsidized housing. So that's another thing, that why all these things become important, because you don't want to blow through your savings with a healthcare event
Right.
and then be penniless the rest of your retirement.
Right.
IRAs.
Okay.
So we'll get onto that. IRAs, 401ks. You can withdraw the money anytime after 59 and a half without a penalty. You still have to pay the tax. If you withdraw it before 59 and a half, you have to pay a penalty on top of the tax.
Right.
But there are certain things, depending on whether it's an IRA or a 401k, that you can draw penalty-free, but not tax-free. They have recently bumped up the age which you have to begin required minimum distributions up to 72.
Okay.
However, if you turn 70 and a half in 2019, it's still 70 and a half.
Okay.
And if you're already taking distributions, it's already, you're already locked in on that. So you need to know how that is going to interplay with the your income from Social Security, the money that comes out of your retirement plan. There was just a huge story on CNBC. There was a trucking company called Yellow Truck, I think they're called, who went bankrupt. This was after they received, I think, $700 million in COVID money.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
So, and a lot of the employees are now without a job, and a lot of them were counting on their company pension to live in their retirement.
Wow. That's really complicated stuff. And, this is why, like, the more you dig into and we're just scratching the surface on all this stuff, but this is really why, I guess, the drumbeat over and over is don't try this stuff on your own. Because, we were talking before the mid-show break when we were having a little conversation about Medicare. And I said, I love the fact that in the Helping Seniors Network, we have some really, really very competent individuals who understand the Medicare plans. In fact, this is the time of year. I was talking with Vicki Moore, who is a volunteer on our board of directors, and she is also one of I think, the top Medicare kind of agents who not only knows her stuff cold, but also really takes the time to get to know the client that she's talking with, to understand the nuances of what's going on and come up with the best possible situation. And a lot of times, as you know, Bill, it's not necessarily the perfect. It's just you're trying to optimize based on whatever's going on. But my point is, they have to go to school all summer to get ready for whatever the next year, because it's the annual enrollment period. That's why you get all that stuff in your mailbox starting like in late September, early October. And all those commercials with all those famous people that you know and love from TV are now all of a sudden Medicare experts and telling you what to do as a big general thing. And, I've heard so often, Bill, these stories from Vicki, somebody will call the 800 number. So they're talking to a call center in Omaha, and they're telling them how to find a doctor. Let's just say the person lives in Cocoa Beach, and they're saying, oh, there's a great doctor for you down in Barefoot Bay, because they're looking at a map and they don't really know. But see, that's why having local expert help is so important. And the same thing, Bill, as it comes down to when we talk about all these legal, and there's so many nuances, you really have to get somebody who's an expert. Like, this is your specialty. You're board certified. You look at it, and you've got to find somebody who really understands the ins and outs if you want to get good advice and good help.
And that is, very true, because, I do mainly the legal end of things,
right.
But you also need somebody who's going to do the financial planning.
Right.
Because if you've left your money in a bank savings account this whole time, earning less than a 1% interest, you're not even keeping up with the cost of living.
Right.
And inflation, you're losing money every year.
Yeah.
And so you do need to be in something that generates more than what the banks are currently paying out as interest. Again, because otherwise you're losing ground. You're not even keeping equal. You're falling behind. Also, you need somebody to deal with the insurance end of things.
Yeah.
There is a vast shortage locally of certified financial planners. There's a national shortage, actually. And they are people who cover all the financial ends, insurance, all of that stuff. But yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find one locally that would just take anyone in the door. So you need to find somebody who can deal with the insurance, the legal, the financial, the investment side of things. And again, the healthcare end of things too.
Yeah, there's so many parts of this that you have to get put together the right way. That's why one of the commitments that Helping Seniors has made all along the way is we're so serious about always trying to find and help people get access to information that makes a difference. Because when it's like Nancy Deerdorf, our operations manager, says, "How do you know what you don't know?" And yet the corollary to that is what you don't know really could cause a headache. The best laid plans of mice and men kind of thing. If you haven't really thought through a lot of these issues, things can get real costly, and the other issue, Bill, we've talked about this so many times, like when people fail to do their advanced planning, the crisis hits. So now the rest of the family is in the middle of the most stressful time because they're concerned about their loved one, just what's going on with it. Then they find out all the paperwork and things that they may have doesn't support what they're trying to do. And so now they're just kind of like in this grinder and there's no way out,
Right. And one other note about Social Security, you may also be able to claim on your ex-spouse's Social Security. There are certain requirements that you have to meet. You can also, if you're married and one of you passes, generally the surviving spouse gets the higher of the two Social Securities. So there are some other intricacies. We could probably spend a whole radio show just on Social Security.
Just on that, yeah.
And things like that. So those are some other considerations, but these are mainly the things you really need to be aware of if you're getting to retirement age.
Yeah, I would hope that maybe, Bill, you could reduce some of this in all of your spare time into a column that we could also use in Senior Scene, because I think the things that we've been talking about today are so important. It's like you said, we spend a lot of time harping on, correctly I might add, about getting all the paperwork in place that you need, everything from your what you need when you go into the hospital or go see a doctor in case somebody needs to help you with that, and more importantly, making sure that your wishes about how you want things to be handled are actually properly documented in a way that actually can happen when it needs to happen. And that's why getting in touch with you, I'm talking again with Bill Johnson. He's a board certified elder law attorney, has been for years and years. I know, like I said, I was just at an FSGA conversation, and your name always roams around the hall as one of the real experts of people who are kind of like on the cutting edge. You're always up to date on what's going on legislatively and helping to make sure that things are going in the right direction for seniors. But we talked about your website, floridaelderlaw.net, but I want you to give the number, but also talk about some of the seminars that you have upcoming, because the best thing you can do to make your own financial plan and your aging plan is to take advantage of these. These are absolutely free. It's a great way to, in a non-committal kind of way, learn some stuff And then if you're intrigued, you say, well, okay, I really do want to sit down with Bill and folks in his office and see if that's a thing that helps. But you need to get all your ducks in a row. So, Bill, I guess we would probably start to ask you for the phone number. Again, it's floridaelderlaw.net is where you want to go on the website, because actually you have a great tool there too, which is, I keep forgetting the official title of it, but in essence, it's that thing that you publish in the center of the Boomer Guide, and it's like an introduction to long-term care and all the different things you need to know about aging. And I think you've got it as a PDF on your website as well. So if you go to floridaelderlaw.net, you can just grab it and download it from there as well. So, Bill, the best phone number to reach you
is 321-253-1667.
And then you do all these seminars and things that are coming up at like One Senior Place and things.
Yeah, August 15th at 10 o'clock at One Senior Place out in Vieira. We are doing a seminar on basic estate planning.
See, there you go.
And then August 24th, same place, 10 a.m., doing a seminar about how to qualify for Medicaid.
And these are free.
These are free.
Yeah, and so if you want to sign up, do you call your office? Is that how it works?
They can just call One Senior Place.
Okay, well, good. And then, kind of related to that, I just wanted to also mention why it's so important to do that. But then also, as we're going forward, I also want to take another moment and kind of change subjects and talk about helping seniors for just half a minute, because we are in that high season for the car raffle. The car raffle is our major fundraiser. We are 100% local to Brevard County. We cannot do any more than you help us to do. If you will help us, we can do more and serve more seniors, which is 25% of our population. If you want to use age 65, and 1 out of 2 of us is over 50, which AARP uses as a definition of a senior, whether we like it or not. So there are a lot of seniors in Brevard County. In fact, half the population by AARP definition is a senior. So the Helping Seniors Car Raffle is something that Joe and his buddy AJ Hires, who runs all the great car dealerships, came up with a number of years ago as a way to do good work for charities that's fun. Because, everybody hates it when you come in with a handout and say, please help us donate money. We love that when you do that. But this is a fun way to do it, because you are donating your money. You're getting a ticket, one ticket for $25, 5 for $100, but it has a lot of benefits for you. Number one, you are helping us do the work of helping seniors. Number two, you get to pick your car. You can choose from a Dodge Challenger, brand new. You can choose from a Chevy Camaro, brand new. You could take a Mazda Miata convertible, or even from AJ's, I guess I would call them the more practical dealerships. He's got the Kia Sportage is one of the cars you could pick, or the Mitsubishi Outlander. And last year, our winner chose the Chevrolet Camaro. And Bill, if I'm remembering correctly, I think I asked you, you've kind of historically been about the Mazda, but you said this year, since they're saying it could be the last year, or they're saying it is the last year, we'll see what they do. You were saying you might choose the Camaro.
I would choose the Camaro.
So there you have it. But it all winds up October 7th at the American Muscle Car Museum, which is a great night out. So you get your ticket. You do not have to be present to win, because we do it by Facebook Live. So if you say, oh, I'm traveling, I'm going to be up in Michigan that day, you can tune in by internet and catch up. And, we pull the winner. The winner's the winner, and it's done. But the fun is being in the museum that night if you're available, because Mark Pylock, who is the very kind, generous owner of that museum, opens his doors and allows, literally last year it was like 3,000 people to come on into the museum that night, tour his unbelievable collection. He's got like 400 cars now. I think it's the largest collection in North America, if not the world, of these muscle cars. And then he's just a great host. He springs for beer, wine, soda, pizza, sandwiches, chocolate chip cookies, all kinds of fun stuff. It's just a great night. Bill, you talk about the museum experience. It's just incredible.
Oh, it's incredible. You go in there, first you're wowed by his Mustang collection, and then you go in the next room and it's just everything else under the sun's there.
Yeah.
And he has so many cars. The cars are on top of cars now. I guess they have those lifters because of the space. But everything from the 50s, really the 50s on. A lot of good-looking cars in there.
Yeah, it's fun because we get to go in there and film some promo stuff, and every time we go in there, the cars are closer together. They're double stacked because he's like the guy with the collection. It's like unbelievable, and we're so fortunate that he opens things up for us like that.
And don't forget, every car that's on that showroom floor is in operational condition.
Yeah, it's incredible, John Harper. You know, we're talking about the fact that that's true. It's like you go and look at these cars, and this like a car from 1972, and it has 8 miles on it, and you could just hop in it and drive it. I mean, it's just an incredible collection by itself. That's worth the ticket, right?
It sure is, absolutely. $25. Yeah, you can't even get into a movie theater these days, I think, for $25.
Yeah, that's what we talk about. We say you go ahead and donate the $100, okay? Because what do you get? You get 5 chances to win, so you've now got 5 times the chances to win. But and this is also not like entering the Powerball lottery where it's billions of people who are playing. This is like a few thousand people from, so your odds are pretty good if you think of it that way. But I always go, everybody's a winner because you're gonna, if you get the 5 tickets. You're taking you and 4 of your friends or family out. You can't go. We were laughing about this last week. You can't go see the Barbie movie and get a pizza afterwards for $100. It's just incredible.
Good point.
So how do you get tickets? Number 1, helpingseniors.carraffle.com. Number 2, you can go to call us, Nancy, at the Helping Seniors number, 321-473-7770. They are available at every single Boniface Hires dealership. And Bill Johnson, you have tickets at your office up in Melbourne.
We do. We're at 140 Interlaken Road, Suite B.
Yeah, so you have to, I always like to say, you have to be in it to win it. And tomorrow, by the way, John and Bill, is a fun day. We've been doing this for a while because when this whole thing started, we came up with this. It just so happened, Jennifer Barton, who owns Seniors Helping Seniors, she just glommed onto the Dodge from day one. She's all about the Dodge, so the Dodge Challenger. And about the same time, Ashley Caswell, who's another one of our directors, has a long experience working in assisted living, said, no, it's the Camaro. And so it just set off this, so I would call it like a sports rivalry. The Dodge is better, the Chevy's better. So for 3 years now, we've tested this theory at Mark Pylock's test track outside the museum. He's allowed us to come in and let the girls run the cars out, and it's so funny to watch. You have to go see these things, DodgeVChevyChallenge.com. And tomorrow morning, we are all going to be out there for the 4th annual, and we're calling it the Final Showdown because they say this is the last year for the Dodge Challenger gas model and the last year for the Chevrolet Camaro gas model. And so after 3 years of running this, nobody switched sides. Team Dodge is still Team Dodge. Team Chevy is still Team Chevy. But we're going to see if we can settle this tomorrow. So we're going to film it tomorrow. You will see it very soon after. But it's going to be fun. And I hear that Sheriff Ivey may be coming by with his speeding ticket pad. So we'll see what happens with that tomorrow at the American Muscle Car Museum.
Well, he's bringing his dog, isn't he?
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But I think he's also bringing that ticket pad. Well, so we'll see we'll see how it all goes down. But you got to be in it to win it. Helping Seniors of Brevard, Helping Seniors car raffle for the tickets. Thanks, John, and thanks, Bill. We'll see you next week on Helping Seniors Radio.